Your destiny is mine.
Yes, John, cut it all! No, please stop! Keep going, son. It's almost done.
There, now you have nothing.
Sit down.
I want
Get
my
your
wife's
popcorn.
success.
Because what happened to Millie
I
Carter
want
is
what
the
she
kind of
has.
thing that will make
All
you
of
laugh,
it.
cry, gasp,
John,
and then
behold
stand
the
up and
sacred
clap,
red comb
all
of our
in the same 5
ancestors.
minutes.
It holds ancient wisdom.
Millie Carter was not your average woman. No, no, no. Millie was the kind of woman who walked into a room and the room adjusted itself. She owned Carter Freight and Cargo, one of the fastest growing cargo companies in the state. Trucks with her logo rolled down highways like royalty.
Who's calling? Oh, hi. Just woke up. Hey, yeah, I'm just relaxing in bed.
Her phone rang before she even woke up in the morning. Her staff respected her. Her clients trusted her. Her bank account? Let us just say her bank account was doing very, very well. And her husband? Well, that is where this story gets interesting. John Carter was tall, handsome, and charming. The kind of man who could smile at you and make you forget that he just finished the last biscuit in the house without asking. He had worked as a bank manager for 7 years, wore his suit like a king, and carried himself like the world owed him a throne. And for a while, things were fine. Millie ran her cargo company, John managed the bank. Their daughter, little Sophie, was the joy of the house, a round-cheeked, fast-talking 4-year-old who could ask 40 questions before breakfast and still have energy for 40 more. Life was good. Balance was everything. And then the email came. Dear Mr. Carter, we regret to inform you that due to restructuring, John lost his job. Just like that, one Tuesday morning, a corporate email ended 7 years of suits, meetings, and corner office importance. John sat at the kitchen table and stared at his laptop screen for so long that Millie had to gently tap his shoulder and ask if he wanted tea. He said yes, but what he meant was no. What he meant was that his entire identity had just been shredded by a company that did not even call him first. Now, a wise man in a situation like this would have taken a breath, dusted himself off, updated his CV, and trusted his wife while he found his footing again. John was not that man. The first week was fine. John stayed home, applied for jobs online, watched a few business videos on YouTube, and let Millie cook dinner when she came back from work. Reasonable, respectable. The second week, things shifted slightly. John started noticing things. The time Millie got home, the tone she used when she talked about her company, the way her phone kept ringing with calls from clients and business partners. And something very ugly began to grow in John's chest, something small and green and hungry. It was jealousy, and jealousy, once it starts eating, does not stop at the appetizer. By the third week, John had turned their peaceful house into a complaint department. The day Millie came home at 7:30 in the evening, John was sitting in the living room with his arms crossed like a disappointed judge. 7:30, Millie? Millie dropped her bag and kicked off her shoes. Yes, John, 7:30. I was in a meeting. A meeting that could not end at 5 like normal people. Millie blinked slowly. I own the company, John. The meeting ends when the business ends. And what about this home? Does this home end when it wants to also? Millie looked at him for a long, quiet moment, then walked to the kitchen to check on Sophie. That was the first complaint. It would not be the last. The next morning, John sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and a fresh idea. A terrible, nonsensical, entirely ridiculous idea that he had somehow convinced himself was brilliant. When Millie came downstairs dressed for work, looking sharp in her grey blazer and carrying her laptop bag, John looked up from his screen and said, Millie, I have been thinking. Good morning to you too, Millie said cheerfully, pouring herself a glass of water. I think you should sign the cargo company over to me. Millie put the glass down slowly. I am sorry? Sign it over to me. I will run it. You can stay home, take care of Sophie, cook, manage the house. That is what a proper wife does anyway. And I, as the man of this house, should be the one running a business, not sitting here while my wife is out there playing CEO. Millie stared at him the way you stare at someone who just told you that the sky is green and they want you to agree. John, she said very calmly, I built that company from one truck and a borrowed office desk. I have 16 employees who depend on me. I have contracts that run for the next 2 years, and you want me to hand it to you because I am your husband. Because you are my husband. Millie picked her bag back up. I will pray for you, John. I have to go. And she walked out the door. John sat there stewing, and the green thing in his chest grew a little bigger. Now, if you think John stopped there, you have clearly never met a man who has confused pride with purpose. Because that man came up with a new complaint every single day, like he was being paid per grievance. Monday, Millie, this soup is not fresh. I can tell it is from yesterday. Tuesday, Millie, you did not iron my shirt properly. I am not going anywhere, but still. Wednesday, Millie, Sophie has been crying. Where were you? Thursday, Millie, I need you to be home by 6. 6, Millie, set a reminder. Friday, Millie, I feel like you do not respect me as the head of this home. And Millie, patient, sweet, God-fearing Millie, took each complaint seriously. She started waking up earlier to cook fresh soup. She ironed his shirt even though he had nowhere to go. She called the babysitter to make sure Sophie was never alone. She tried to be home by 6 where possible. She loved her husband. She genuinely, sincerely loved him. And she kept thinking that if she just tried harder, the man she married would come back. But here's the thing about watering a dead plant. No matter how much water you pour, it's not coming back. And then the mother-in-law called. Oh, this is the part of the story where you will need to hold something. Hold your pillow, hold your phone, hold your patience. Because Carol Carter, John's mother, called Millie on a Wednesday afternoon like she had been personally appointed by heaven to correct women she did not create. Millie, Carol's voice came through the phone like cold soup, flat and unpleasant. Good afternoon, Mom, Millie said politely. I am going to say this once, so listen carefully. You are not a virtuous woman. Millie paused. I am sorry? You heard me. My son is sitting at home, suffering, while you are running around with trucks and contracts like a man. That is not how marriage works. Your husband is your crown. You should hand him that company, give him access to your account. Let him lead. That is what a good wife does. Millie held the phone away from her ear and looked at it the way you look at something that has deeply offended you. Mom, she said, bringing the phone back. I love John. I support this family. I pay the bills. I cook. I raise Sophie. I go to work. What exactly am I not doing? You are not submitting. I am not handing my company to someone who has never run a cargo route in his life, if that is what you mean by submitting. Millie, thank you for calling, Mom. Good evening. Click. Millie put the phone face down on her desk and took a very long breath.
It's time to play the game.
But while Millie was briefing, John was scheming. Something had snapped inside of him. Something dark and desperate. Every morning, he watched Millie leave, heels clicking, phone ringing, confidence glowing, and every morning something ugly twisted tighter in his gut. He could not sleep. He could not focus. The job applications had stopped. The YouTube videos had stopped. All he could think about was how it felt to watch his wife succeed while he sat in a house that she paid for, on furniture that she bought, eating food that she provided. He told himself it was not jealousy. He told himself it was principle. He told himself he deserved more. And one afternoon, while Millie was at work and Sophie was napping, John Carter got into his car and drove to the edge of town, to a dusty little compound behind a cassava farm, to a man called Dr. Bello, though nobody who went there called him doctor out loud. They called him other things, quieter things. John sat across from the old man, in a dark room that smelled like burnt herbs and old decisions.
I want my wife's success. I want what she has. All of it.
I want my wife's success, John said. I want what she has. All of it. The company, the money, the luck. I want it transferred to me. The old man looked at him for a long moment, not with shock, not with judgment, just with the flat, knowing eyes of someone who had seen foolish men sit in that chair too many times before. He reached into a wooden box and produced a comb, bright red, carved and decorated with patterns that seemed to shift when you were not looking directly at them. "Gift this to your wife," Dr. Bello said quietly. "The moment she uses it, everything she carries, her destiny, her fortune, her strength, will pass to you." John took the comb with hands that were slightly shaking. He should have shaken harder. He should have turned around and thrown it into the river on the way home. He should have remembered that what you steal from another person with darkness will never sit peacefully in your hands. But he did not remember any of that. He just drove home, hid the comb in his jacket pocket, and smiled for the first time in weeks. That weekend, John wrapped the comb in a small gift box with tissue paper and a little bow. He handed it to Millie over breakfast with a smile that he had practiced in the bathroom mirror. "What is this?" Millie asked, genuinely surprised. "Just a little gift. I saw it and thought of you." Millie looked at him. The smile, the gift, the unusual softness in his voice. Part of her heart quietly rejoiced because this was the John she had married. This was the man she had been waiting to come back. She opened the box and pulled out the red comb. It was beautiful. Strange, but beautiful. "Thank you, John," she said warmly. He kissed her forehead and went back to his laptop. And he waited. That evening, Millie sat at her dressing table after her shower and ran the red comb through her hair. 1 stroke, 2 strokes, 3. By morning, something was different. Not dramatically, not all at once, but like a slow leak in a tire, Millie began to lose air.
Calls from clients became confusing. Contracts she had memorized slipped from her memory. She made decisions that did not make sense.
She's been like that all morning.
Did something happen?
I don't know, but she looks so upset.
We should check on her.
Her staff started looking at her with concern in their eyes. She missed meetings. She forgot names. Her body started to feel heavy. Not sick exactly, but drained, like someone had quietly unplugged her while she was sleeping. Within 2 weeks, Carter Freight and Cargo was in chaos. Within a month, Millie had lost 3 major contracts. Within 6 weeks, she could barely get out of bed. She was pale, thin, her voice had gone quiet. She sat in the bedroom while Sophie played on the floor beside her, and she could not explain what was wrong with her because she did not know. The doctors ran tests and found nothing. She was not physically sick by any diagnosis they could name, but she was fading. Slowly, visibly, terrifyingly fading. And John? John was transformed. He became energetic overnight, sharp, decisive, confident. He walked into her cargo company and started issuing instructions. He told her staff that Millie was unwell and that he would be taking over. He signed documents, he took meetings, he negotiated contracts. Money started flowing into accounts that had only his name on them. He bought new clothes, a new car. He spoke on the phone with a booming voice and a laugh that Millie did not recognize. And one evening, he sat on the edge of their bed while Millie lay there, weak and pale, and told her, calmly, without even raising his voice, that he had met someone, that the two of them would be getting married, and that Millie needed to think about where she would go. Millie looked up at him from the pillow. Her lips moved, but no strong words came. She was too drained, too gone. "John," she whispered, "I am sick. I need medicine." "I am busy," he said, and he left the room. She asked him 3 more times over the following week for money for medicine, for help getting to a clinic. Each time, John either changed the subject or walked away. He did not look at her with the eyes of a husband. He looked at her the way you look at old furniture that you are planning to throw out once the new stuff arrives. His mother called during this time, not to check on Millie, to congratulate John on finally taking charge. The very same woman who told Millie to submit and support her husband was now celebrating while that same husband left his wife lying sick in a bedroom without medicine. Some people have a very creative definition of virtue. John's new girlfriend, whose name was Tara, had moved herself firmly into the picture. She came to the house. She sat in Millie's kitchen. She used Millie's good cups. She laughed loudly on the phone in rooms that Millie had furnished. Little Sophie, who was 4 years old and sharper than most adults, watched all of this with the enormous quiet eyes of a child who knows that something is deeply wrong but cannot find the words. The wedding date was set, invitations went out. John bought Tara a ring that cost more than Millie's hospital visit ever would have. Now, here is the part of the story where God reminds everyone, that he has a sense of humor. The night before the wedding, John was in the bedroom getting his things ready. Tara was down the hall. Little Sophie was in the living room, bored and wondering the way 4-year-olds do when nobody is watching them properly. She found the red comb on her father's bedside table. Now, Sophie, being 4 and entirely unbothered by the spiritual weight of cursed objects, picked it up and thought it was the most exciting thing she had seen all week. It was bright red, it was pretty, it had interesting patterns on it. She walked into her father's room where he was standing in front of the mirror adjusting his collar, and before John could turn around, she ran the comb right through the back of his head with the cheerful enthusiasm of a child who has just discovered a new game. Then she skipped down the hall to where Tara was sitting and combed through her hair too. "Sophie!" Tara shrieked, swatting her hand away. "Don't touch my hair!" Sophie dropped the comb on the floor and ran back to her cartoons. What happened next, no one in that house was prepared for. John finished adjusting his collar and then stopped, stood very still, and then turned around in the bedroom with a look on his face that was not quite right. His eyes were unfocused, his mouth moved without producing sensible words. Then Tara screamed from down the hall. And then both of them screamed, together, separately, in overlapping waves of screaming that brought Sophie running and brought Millie slowly, weakly to the doorway of her bedroom. John was pacing, talking to the wall, arguing with furniture. Tara had collapsed on the couch with her hands over her head, rocking back and forth, making sounds that no wedding guest would ever want to hear. Both of them had lost their minds. Both of them simultaneously had gone completely, spectacularly, and thoroughly mad. Sophie stood in the hallway watching her father run in circles and looked back at her mother with the calm expression of a child who has decided to report exactly what she did and is not particularly sorry about it. "Mommy," Sophie said, "I combed my father's head and I combed the lady's hair with the red comb." Millie, leaning against the door frame, too weak to stand fully, stared at her daughter. "You did what?" "The comb, Mommy. The pretty red one. I combed them." Sophie shrugged. "Now they are being strange." Millie looked at John, who was now trying to put his shoe on his hand, and at Tara, who was singing loudly in no particular language. And something clicked. The comb. The gift. The moment everything started going wrong. She called for the neighbor to come and watch the chaos. She found the comb on the floor, and with all the strength left in her body, she went to the backyard, found the metal bin, dropped the red comb inside, and lit a match. The comb burned with a sound like a very quiet scream, and Millie stood there and watched every last piece of it turn to ash. The next morning, she woke up and breathed deeply for the first time in months. The morning after that, she called her most trusted staff member and asked for an update on the company. The morning after that, she was on the phone with a client she had lost, explaining what had happened, asking for another chance. By the end of the first week, 2 clients had agreed to give her new contracts. By the end of the first month, Carter Freight and Cargo was breathing again. By the end of 3 months, Millie had recovered the original company, signed 2 new long-term shipping deals, and quietly, methodically, built the foundation for 2 additional cargo companies that would officially open before the year was out. She was stronger, she was sharper, and she had learned something that no business school could ever teach you, that your greatest test will sometimes wear the face of someone you love.
Let's check the new drafts on the board. Next phase logistics looks promising. What God cannot do does not exist.
John was collected by an ambulance. He was admitted to Greenfield Mental Health Center with no clear diagnosis. The doctor said it was sudden psychotic breakdown. The spiritual community said something rather different. Tara had vanished before the ambulance arrived. No note, no forwarding address, no response to calls. She simply evaporated, the way bad decisions often do when consequences arrive.
How much is my total bill? It's 4 million naira, ma'am.
About 6 weeks after John was admitted, Carol Carter called Millie's phone. Millie looked at the name on the screen and answered. Millie. Carol's voice was cold and accusation. I hear you put my son in a mental hospital. He is receiving treatment, Millie said evenly. You should be in there with him. You should be sitting beside him every day, bringing him food, praying over him. That is what a good wife does. You caused this, Millie. You caused all of this because you refused to hand him that cargo company. You are too proud, too stubborn, and now look at my son. Carol. Millie's voice was quiet, but it had steel in it. Real steel, the kind that forms under pressure. My son needs Carol. Please listen to me very carefully because I will say this once. Millie sat up straight. John was playing quietly in the other room. The afternoon sun was warm through the window. I fed this family. I clothed this family. I kept this family when there was nothing. I tried to love your son well, and he repaid me with a cursed comb from a native doctor. I lost my health, my contracts, my peace, and I fought my way back. I am paying for the hospital, I am raising his daughter, and I am not going to explain my worth to you one more time. She exhaled slowly. Do not call this number again. She ended the call, put the phone face down on the table, picked up her business plan, and kept reading. Sophie grew up knowing that her mother was the kind of woman who got knocked all the way down and stood all the way back up. She grew up watching Millie run 3 companies, take meetings before sunrise, laugh loudly at dinner, and tuck her in every single night without missing once. She grew up knowing that the most powerful thing a woman can own is herself. And she grew up knowing one rule, which Millie repeated so often it became a song in their house. What is yours by destiny, no comb can carry away forever. Moral of the story. When a person tries to steal what God placed in another's hands, they do not gain it. They only borrow chaos. True destiny cannot be combed away, traded, or transferred. It returns to its rightful owner. And the people who try to take it, they are left holding the consequences. Build what is yours with clean hands. Protect what is yours with wisdom. And never ever accept a gift from someone who just spent 6 weeks complaining about your soup. Thank you so very much for watching. If this story made you laugh, gasp, clap, or clutch your chest, please give it a big thumbs up, drop a comment below telling us what you thought of John and that comb, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to Tales by Onyi so you never miss a story. We will be right here, waiting with the next one.
Baby, I'm so sorry for making you mad. I broke up with Tara, and I promise to love you forever.
Oh, baby, I forgive you.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
The end.